Today we're going to talk about one of the most influential presidents in U.S. history, Franklin D. Roosevelt, more commonly known by his catchy initials, FDR. You can get by without knowing Warren G. Harding or Rutherford B. Hayes, but Roosevelt guided the nation through the Great Depression and World War II, some of the most troubling times in American history. So, what do you think of when you think of FDR? He had polio and governed from a wheelchair. Annie visited him and sang to him. He was married to Eleanor Roosevelt, who was his fifth cousin and one of the most influential first ladies. But let's move past the polio and the fact that he married his distant cousin, because it clearly didn't stop FDR, and there's a lot more to know and remember about his presidency. Roosevelt made a lot of progress in reviving the nation's economy from the Great Depression and navigating the foreign policies of World War II. We're going to split his presidency into two main areas: the work he did for the economy during the New Deal presidency, and the work for foreign policy during World War II. Economically, FDR was faced with the challenge of reviving a severely depressed economy. To combat unemployment and circulate money, FDR pushed a record number of bills through Congress during his first 100 Days program to grant immediate relief to millions of unemployed. He continued Hoover's Federal Emergency Relief Administration and created the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, Works Progress Administration, WPA, and the Tennessee Valley Authority, which hired hundreds of thousands of unemployed men to work on rural local projects. He also protected the livelihoods of laborers and farmers through the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, and Agriculture Adjustment Administration, AAA. Even though FDR was generally popular, the AAA was more controversial because it told farmers to continue producing in excess and then letting it go to waste. FDR also established Social Security. Yay! This program was established to provide monetary benefits to retired people and those who were unemployed or disabled. We still use it to this day. Looks like FDR was looking out for his own interests, helping the disabled elderly people. But really though, FDR's impact is illustrated by the decrease of unemployment from 25% to 2% over his presidency. He experienced some controversy when he attempted to pack the Supreme Court by adding 6 hand-picked new justices to the bench during his second term. This was seen as a presidential power grab of the judicial branch. As FDR was re-elected for an unprecedented third term, he led the nation into the Second World War. He supported the case for intervention in World War II through the Destroyers for Bases Agreement, which exchanged American weapons for forts positioned strategically along the Atlantic, and the Land-Lease Act, which supplied ships and armament to the Allied forces in Europe. FDR led the U.S. into World War II after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, and was one of the big three Allied strategists along with Churchill and Stalin. A dark point in FDR's presidency was when he relocated 100,000 Japanese American civilians into internment camps in 1942 to try and control fear that haunted the nation after Pearl Harbor. Finally, FDR endorsed the creation of the United Nations and supported the Bretton Woods system of monetary management among states. His foreign policies extended to the Good Neighbor policy, which withdrew American forces from Latin American countries. His wife, Eleanor, set a new level of involvement for future First Ladies. She made appearances with and without her husband and petitioned for women's rights. Like any president, Roosevelt had high points and low points. Through his creative policies and strong leadership, he was able to make important changes that pulled the nation out of despair. Just the fact that he had 4 terms shows how influential and respected he was. And if FDR could win World War II in a wheelchair, there is nothing to fear except fear itself.